Hi, hello everybody. Hello. Welcome to San Francisco Ballet's Points of View lecture series. I'm Jasmine Yep Nguyen, and I'm the Associate Director of Education at San Francisco Ballet. On behalf of everyone at San Francisco Ballet, thank you for joining us for the first Points of View lecture of the 2022 season. The season opened last night, and we are so thrilled to have live performances in front of live audiences in the Opera House. So thank you to all of our audiences in person and online for supporting us throughout the pandemic. San Francisco Ballet is pleased to provide this free Points of View lecture series to the public on Facebook Live and YouTube during the 2022 season. Before the pandemic, Points of View lectures were held in the War Memorial Opera House before every Wednesday evening performance. This year, we are continuing that tradition, but we will be offering a new Points of View lecture online at 6 p.m. Pacific time before each Wednesday evening performance that will happen in the Opera House. The recording of today's Points of View lecture will continue to be available to view online on San Francisco Ballet's YouTube channel through the end of the season in May 2022. For a full list of the schedule of this year's Points of View lectures, please visit us at sfballet/events. A few housekeeping notes before I introduce our hosts and guests. This event is streaming on Facebook Live and YouTube. We might have time for questions or comments at the end of the discussion. Our panelists cannot see the questions or comments as they are posted on those platforms, but we do have staff who are monitoring them and will be passing along those questions that are relevant to the discussion in case we have time at the end. Additionally, when commenting on the live chat, please respectfully request everyone to abide by our community guidelines, which can be found in the link in the chat. Today's conversation celebrates San Francisco Ballet's artistic director and principal choreographer, Helgi Tomasson. Last night opened the 2022 season, which is Helgi's celebration and farewell 25th season as artistic director and principal choreographer. The ballets in Program 1 and 2 celebrate the expansive unfolding of Helgi's career as a dancer and choreographer, encompassing works by luminaries in the field and repertory from Tomasson's own canon. Joining us today for a walk down memory lane are three inspiring artists who have been by Helgi's side from the beginning as he transformed San Francisco Ballet from a regional company into a ballet company widely recognized as one of the finest in the world. I am thrilled to welcome today's guest, Helgi Tomasson, SF Ballet's artistic director and principal choreographer, and the three incredible women fondly known as the Three Graces: former ballet master Bonita Borne, recently retired ballet master Betsy Erickson, and current ballet master and principal character dancer Anita Pachody. Welcome, everyone. I'm really pleased to introduce today's host for our conversation. Jennie Scholick, PhD, is our Director of Education and Training at San Francisco Ballet. Jennie joined SF Ballet in 2017 as Associate Director of Audience Engagement and was named the Director of Education and Training in 2021. As a dance scholar, her research and writing have appeared in Dance Chronicle and the recently published Oxford Handbook of Contemporary Ballet, among other publications. I'm really looking forward to this conversation as we celebrate Helgi's farewell season and his long list of contributions to SF Ballet, the Bay Area, this art form, and ballet audiences across the globe. Over to you, Jennie. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jasmine, and thank you to all of our guests for being here tonight. I'm really excited about this conversation. As Jasmine said, we're going to be taking a look back to the beginning of Helgi's time at San Francisco Ballet, a little walk down memory lane. And before we do that, I do want to dive a little bit deeper into the backgrounds briefly of our guests tonight. So I will go in alphabetical order here by last name. So Bonita Borne, as Jasmine said, is a former ballet master and assistant to the artistic director here. In 1985, Helgi Tomasson appointed former New York City ballet dancer and colleague Bonita Borne to serve as ballet master and assistant to the artistic director, a position she held until 1996. In this role, Bonita assisted Helgi Tomasson in a myriad of company matters, as well as rehearsing and staging many ballets. Prior to coming to San Francisco Ballet, she joined New York City Ballet in 1970 and appeared in most of its repertory works over the next 10 years, dancing in over 100 ballets by George Balanchine, Jerome Robbins, John Terrace, Jacques d'Amboise, among others. She appeared in the Dance in America broadcast of Balanchine's Emeralds and Ballo della Regina. And in 2010, she came back to San Francisco Ballet School to stage Western Symphony. And in 2018 was here for the summer as a guest teacher. So thank you for being with us tonight. Betsy Erickson began her formal dance training on a Ford Foundation scholarship here at San Francisco Ballet School, where she studied with Lou and Harold Christensen and Anatole Biltzak. She spent 20 years dancing professionally with San Francisco Ballet and American Ballet Theater in principal roles, including in works by George Balanchine, Lou Christensen, Jerome Robbins, and Michael Smuin. In recognition of her choreography for San Francisco Ballet and Oakland Ballet, she has received numerous awards and fellowships, including a California Arts Council Fellowship, 6 National Endowment for the Arts Choreographer Fellowships, and a National Dance Residency Program grant. Betsy was appointed ballet master in January 1992 and retired from that position just last year in 2021. Although I don't think you're fully retired, Betsy. I think you're still here quite a bit. But in that role as ballet master, she was responsible for staging and rehearsing multiple ballets from our repertoire, including works by Val Canaproli, Lou Christensen, Mark Morris, Alexei Ratmansky, Jerome Robbins, and Helgi Tomasson. Anita Pachody studied ballet at San Francisco Ballet School and joined the company in 1968. She was appointed rehearsal assistant in 1982 and then promoted to ballet master in 1991, where she is responsible for staging and rehearsing ballets by guest and resident choreographers. As a company dancer with San Francisco Ballet, she performed numerous leading roles, including in Lou Christensen's Con Amore, Michael Smuin's, lost a ballet in there. Many Michael Smuin ballets, Lee's in Frederick Ashton's Female Garde, and among many other roles. In 1987, Thomason appointed Pachody principal character dancer and based the role of Caraboss from his production of Sleeping Beauty on her. She appeared in the Dance in America broadcast of Romeo and Juliet, recreating her role as Lady Capulet, and performed the Bearded Lady in Christensen's Jinx and the Red Dance from Smuin's Songs of Mahler for 2 KQED TV broadcasts taped in 1984. And last but certainly not least, we are joined by Helgi Tomasson, who was regarded as one of the supreme classical dancers of his generation. He began his dance training, his ballet training in his native Iceland, and continued his studies at Denmark's Pantomime Theater and at George Balanchine's School of American Ballet in New York. He joined the Joffrey Ballet in 1961 and 2 years later became a member of the Harkness Ballet. In 1969, Tomasson entered the first international ballet competition in Moscow and returned home to the United States with the silver medal. The following year, he was invited by George Balanchine to join New York City Ballet as a principal dancer. He left the stage in 1985, which is where our story will pick up, when he became the artistic director of San Francisco Ballet. He brought to this position a gift for choreographing, for teaching, a dynamic vision, and the pursuit of excellence. And under his guidance, as Jasmine said, San Francisco Ballet has achieved recognition as one of the finest ballet companies in the world, and it has been a remarkable 37-year run. So, all that said, all of those bios, I want to take this time tonight to talk about those 37 years, perhaps really focus in on the beginning, because you all have worked together for a large part of that tenure. And I think you're all going to have really fascinating memories of what that experience has been like. But before we get going on that sort of memory lane, I would love for one of you, if you would chime in and volunteer, to just give a little bit of context to our audience of what the job of a ballet master is and how a ballet master interacts with an artistic director. I used the term about 17 times as I read your bios, but for someone who's not based in a ballet company, they may not really know what that job entails. So would anyone like to jump in and give us a little definition? Yes, Bonnie, go for it.
Sure. Well, we are ballet mistresses, as the women are called. But our main duties, for me, it was teaching company class and the ladies' point classes, knowing every step, hand, arm, head of your given ballet, to rehearse it, teach it to them, to rehearse them, coach them, get it on the stage and to a live audience. And so there's many, many hours of hard work that goes into that, but that's the fun part.
I'll go.
Go for it.
So when Helgi came, one of the things he did that distinguished him so much was to search the globe already for new and emerging choreographers from everywhere, many of whom we had never met. Bill Forsyth is one, James Kudelka is another, David Bentley is another. And they came and they were very instrumental in shaping the new company, because they all came from different backgrounds, had different styles of choreography. Interestingly enough, we'll premiere a San Francisco premiere of one of Bill Forsyth's more recent works tomorrow night, which is kind of full circle. Bonita was always the ballet mistress for him in the beginning. Remember?
Loved it. It was so amazing. It was it was a different way of working and creating, and the outcome obviously was terrific. The audiences loved it, the dancers loved it, and I loved being a part of that. And that was just the beginning of so many new people coming in to choreograph for the company.
Sometimes our position is to also be the link between a guest choreographer and maybe the production department or costume department, makeup, music, whatever's required. And if a choreographer comes in and doesn't know anybody really, just being that link to who they need to see or what they need to do, just to make the whole process happen. They take it from studio to stage with all the elements that contribute to it.
And there's often a huge break between when the person, he or she, might come in the summertime when we have an extended rehearsal period, but the work might not be premiered until the following spring. And of course, a person who lives in Europe or elsewhere is going to go home. After they finish the creation, they go back. And so most of the time they can't come back for that long a time. So we're responsible to recreate and reteach, if need be, the piece. So we really have to have quite a good handle on it. And almost always the person reappears in person, not every single time, and sometimes it's only days before. Sometimes it's a couple of weeks, sometimes it's almost nothing. So it's a big responsibility to maintain the integrity, the accuracy of the work, what they intended.
The style, the everything, spacing, yeah.
You asked what is the between a ballet mistress and the dancers, and that is a very special relationship. At least for me it was, and I know for Betsy and Anita it is too. I felt very motherly towards the dancers. They're young, they're maybe first time away from home. I know what that was like. We all know what that was like. It's a lot of pressure, and sometimes they need somebody to talk to, somebody to cry to. And I always felt like I really wanted to be there for them. And I was, and Anita and I shared an office, and she saw them in there pretty much on a daily basis. And that's a very important another aspect of our job.
Helgi, when you came to San Francisco Ballet and, sort of first looked at the company and thought about what you wanted to do here, was one of the things on your list around bringing in ballet masters or ballet mistresses who could help shape the organization in the way you wanted to? Is that something you thought about
Absolutely, because like the ladies have explained, what a ballet mistress does, or ballet master, we wouldn't have performances without those people, because they keep the work going and taught and be ready. They are responsible to have it ready to go on stage, after the choreographers have left. And like I said, sometimes the choreographers can come back for a few days before the premiere. But up till that point, the work has to be rehearsed and maybe taught to new dancers who were not there when he or she were there to choreograph it. So it's extremely important position. And I definitely thought very much about what I needed to do to find people, right people to help me create this company that I wanted to, the image that I wanted.
Was there anything in particular at the time that you really felt like the company needed? Like when you thought, I'm going to bring in Bonnie because she's going to bring, you know, this aspect to the company that I really think they need right now?
Well, in Bonnie's case, as Bonnie remembers, she wrote me a letter.
I did, from Zurich.
Yeah, he said something to the effect, I think you need me next to you in this new job. And we knew each other in New York City Ballet, and we were friends. And truly enough, that was something that I felt would be very good to have. And of course, Anita started, I think, right away with me, so far as I remember. Am I right, Anita? What did you?
I danced a little bit in the last year, but pretty much right away. Yeah.
Yeah. I just felt that Anita had the skills to be a great ballet mistress and knew the company, knew the dancers, and this was important to me. Besides, she's fantastic in her character roles. So, you know, yes, this was something that was important to start directing a company.
So we got a little bit of this history, but I'm curious, Betsy, Anita, Bonnie, each of you, do you remember when you first met Helgi and what your first impressions were? Not to put you on the spot, but I'm curious.
Well, Helgi, did you join in October of 1970, New York City Ballet?
No, 1970 in Saratoga in July.
In July. Okay, you were in July. I was in October of 1970. And I had seen Helgi dance with Harkness Ballet. And when he joined, it was, I mean, all the girls would stand in the wings, and Helgi knows this, you know this. We all stand in the wings and watch you, because he was so different than everybody else, and just so, it was beautiful to watch. And Mr. Balanchine took great care with choreographing for Helgi, because of some very special ballets for him. And so I did meet you in 1970. I was 17 and just joined the company, and you had just joined the company as a big star. Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw Helgi, it was also with the Harkness, and I saw you dancing Canto Indio. I think you must have come to Berkeley. It was here in California with the little, you know her name, I've forgotten. But it was a wonderful piece, and I didn't really know anything except what an incredible performer. So much charisma. I mean, on top of just this terrific technique, and it was a very fast dance. It builds and faster, and you know, more and more action. But it was your personality, I think, that really struck home to me, because you were just so engaging, I think I want to say. But anyway, so after that, I didn't meet you until you became the director, and we met in the office, and you just simply explained what you needed, what you wanted. We just talked. I talked about what I thought I might be able to be helpful with, and we just went from there. I remember you just saying that you wanted someone who would be just honest and loyal, and you know, do their best to just further the project along. And I agreed.
So was it Canto Indio, you said?
Yeah. Elizabeth Carroll. Isn't that right?
Yeah, Elizabeth Carroll, yes.
Yeah. Little lady.
Yeah, it was a very difficult piece, almost 15 minutes long.
Yeah.
And extremely taxing, but fun to dance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I saw Helgi in New York when I was with AVT. I saw Helgi perform with Harkness Ballet, and then later with New York City Ballet. And I remember Harkness Ballet, there were maybe 4 guys. There was a special piece that was done for 4 guys. And
Mhm.
it was just like technique, crazy technique, impossible technique. I didn't meet Helgi until he came to San Francisco, and I was ballet mistress for Oakland Ballet, and I came over and met Helgi at that point. And then in '92, Helgi invited me to join San Francisco Ballet as ballet mistress. And that's when I met Bonnie. And Anita and I had known each other for years and years as dancers with San Francisco Ballet.
So oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Betsy, you saw variation for 4.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. That's what it was.
Which was choreographed by Anton Dolan, who was a,
Oh my gosh, it was so hard.
yes, it was hard. But there was 4 male dancers in there, and each one had a variation, very different from one another. And yeah, that was Dolan's choreography.
Oh my gosh. Tough like anything, just unbelievable.
Well, I wanted to ask Betsy, you know, were commenting you were at Oakland Ballet as ballet mistress in the early 90s and then came back to San Francisco Ballet after having been with us earlier on in your career. And I'm wondering what made that an exciting opportunity for you? You know, what about that invitation from Helgi made you think like, yes, I want to make this change. I want to come back to San Francisco Ballet.
Well, San Francisco had always been my home, and San Francisco Ballet, and I kept returning to the company. And it was very exciting to think of doing the full lengths again, just seeing Swan Lake and Giselle and all the classics, which I so love and danced with American Ballet Theater. And Helgi also invited me to help stage Lou Christensen's Nutcracker and to rehearse it, to bring it back to original form. And so that was very dear to my heart because I had danced for years with Lou. So all those things combined made it a decision that I had to make, and so glad that I did, because it just opened this wonderful world of repertoire and classics and contemporary and working with so many people. It was just such an exciting thing. No regrets.
Then a similar question for Bonnie, but maybe the other way around. What made you think that Helgi needed you in San Francisco, and how different was San Francisco Ballet at the time from your experience elsewhere at New York City Ballet or anywhere else?
Well, I had just previously retired from dancing and I had danced with the Zurich Ballet, which was New York City Ballet's European company. And then I went back as a ballet mistress. And that was my very first taste of being a ballet mistress, with teaching, company class, rehearsing, learning very new choreography. And then the director of the Zurich Ballet, Patricia Neary, was up for the job for San Francisco Ballet. So I was taking care of the Zurich Ballet while she was in San Francisco, meeting with everybody. She did not get the job. Helgi got the job. She came back and said, I didn't get the job. And I was like, he's going to need some help. This is what I do now. So I wrote him a letter and he asked me to meet him in Chicago, where the company was dancing at Ravinia, and we met and watched the company, and we spoke, and he told me his vision for the company to become an international ballet company, and he did everything that he said he would do. And so he hired me. I got lucky. But when I moved to San Francisco, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anybody in the company. I didn't know anybody in San Francisco. And it was daunting to walk in to a company I had no clue. And, it was rough in the beginning, but we all settled in, and look what happened.
And then Anita, the version of the question for you, you've spent really your whole career here, pretty much, pretty close. And what's kept you here? Why have you stayed?
Oh, I think it's a combination of things. You know, I'm from here. I'm an original member of the Oakland Ballet Company. My family is here. And so my career was with San Francisco Ballet. I really didn't want to go anywhere else. And then when it was time to retire, I also met my husband in the company, Russell Murphy. And shortly after I became ballet mistress with Helgi, we had our first son. And so it was partly staying here, you know, to raise children. That was part of the thing. But it was also, I was very happy in what I did and do here. So that's it. It's just those kind of personal and, familial ties.
So one of the great legacies of Helgi's 37 years with the organization has been the many, many new choreographers that he's brought here, which we've touched on already, as well as ballets from the Balanchine and Robbins repertoire. And I'm wondering if for each of you, including Helgi, you have any particular memories of maybe a premiere, maybe a rehearsal process with a choreographer, something that really stands out as a highlight, a real sort of memorable moment where you just got to think, like, I am so lucky that I get to do this job at this company with these people. Anyone wants to?
Boy, I have a lot. I have a lot of them. Helgi, what do you think?
Well, go ahead, Bonnie. Go ahead.
I have a lot of them because I was so lucky to work with some amazing, amazing choreographers and dancers. The very first one was having Billy Forsyth come from Europe. Yeah. I had worked with him in Zurich right before, and Helgi asked him to come and do a new work. And I had never, his thought process, his working process, Anita, you were in there, you know what went on. It was like nothing I had ever experienced. And it challenged the dancers. It challenged me to learn all that. Oh my God, there was so much going on. And I was so proud of everybody when that premiered. The audience went crazy, and we didn't know what to expect because it was like kind of electronic music, and it was way out there. And that was one of the highlights of my whole time. It was so fun. Anita, wasn't it crazy? He would put magazines down for you guys with like the National Enquirer and take headlines and make stories out of them. And then the dancing part was above and beyond. So yeah. Billy was really a huge, huge influence in the company and also on me. Also, just like when Helgi staged Sleeping Beauty, I'd never been a part of a full-length ballet before. And this was something very new to me, and I had to learn the whole ballet, and that was challenging. But once it was on the stage with the costumes and the scenery, it was magnificent, and the dancing was beautiful, and just being in on the process of a full length was very rewarding.
Yeah, I think that's the same way. I mean, there were so many highlights from different ballets and different premieres that were just, just earth-shattering. I remember one season in New York when we brought maybe The Comfort Zone and I don't know if it was The Dance House, and taking New York by storm was a big one. That one
huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
But I think for me personally, it's probably, again, the creation of the full length with Helgi, which was Romeo and Juliet, because after the first three, it was the one that you did completely on your own. There was no petit pas, there was no, Irina, it was all you. And it was really wonderful to see how you created everyone's role, from Juliet to Tybalt to Mercutio, as well as, of course, the pas de deux and everything, and the crowd scenes and the peasants and the nurse. And I know it took a lot out of you. And I have a very special memory of being at the piano one afternoon, and you had the score in front of you, and you looked at me and you said, "I think I just did the final passage of music." He was done. And you were just like,
Yeah.
and we're going to be doing that one again, I hear.
Yeah.
Betsy, how about you?
Oh, I think there's so much, and there's so many people choreographers that came to work with the company. Alexei Ratmansky, Mark Morris, what a wide range. At one moment you might be rehearsing the Swans in Swan Lake, and then the next moment you're rehearsing something like Mark Morris. It was so fascinating and so intricate, and like a little puzzle that came together. Just such an interesting process that he had. I think, though, probably the first thing I worked with Helgi was Swan Lake, and having 24 swans at that time, and then later 30 swans, which Helgi said, "Okay, this time the new production we're doing 30 swans," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, how are we going to do that?" But we did, and it was thrilling, I think, to see. And I remember the audience reaction when 30 swans were finally on stage in the entrance and then moving all together. It just brought chills to me, and the audience responded with gasps and applause and everything else, because at that moment it was like everything came together and it was just so beautiful. That was a moment that I will never forget.
Yeah, I remember that opening that Lucy Jewett, who has been a great supporter of the company, was on the board. She was in tears. She was just so thrilled. And that to me,
really something.
Said everything. Yeah.
Would that be one of your moments, Helgi? One of your highlights?
Yes, it was, and there have been so many. I mean, where do I start? But of course, Billy Forsyth coming at an early, when I was in my first few years, Kudelka, David Bentley, Dance House, Mark Morris, Wielden, taking all Wielden works to Edinburgh Festival, because they were not that familiar with his work, and I felt they should be. I mean, there are just so many. Yes, Swan Lake, Sleeping Beauty, Giselle. But like Anita said, Romeo and Juliet is what I that was all mine from beginning to the end. And having been at the pantomime theater as a young boy learning mime, it just felt so natural and easy for me to show all the roles, if it was Tybalt or if it was Juliet in her, when she has to make the decision to take the poison or not. And I showed everything, and I just felt that it came naturally to me, and that's been one of my highlights in the company. But there are just so many wonderful choreographers that I've worked with, and people. I have been very blessed. I could never have done everything I've achieved to do without them. And I'm talking about these three ladies who are there. So thank you.
I wanted to ask, really the three ladies, but maybe all of you in a certain way, about how you've seen the company change over the last 37 years, but also perhaps how or if you've seen Helgi change as a leader. It's been a long tenure, and I wonder if there are things that you've seen change over time, or things about him that have stayed incredibly consistent over his tenure?
Well, I can just tell you that the caliber of dancing from 1985 to 2022, even though I'm not there, I keep up on as much as I can still because I miss it so much. But the caliber of dancing, the caliber of the repertory is has far surpassed anything I ever thought was possible. And Helgi has always been a leader. All right, when he was a principal dancer, he was a leader. By his demeanor, the way he carried himself, he was so respected by all the other dancers. And he took that with him in his directorship. And he's like the captain of the ship. And he has sailed the ship really into an amazing sea of beauty. And I don't know, I see him, there's other sides to Helgi that people don't see. How much he cares about the dancers. That's first and foremost. And what repertory is going to suit these dancers. And, you know, there's so much care that it goes on behind the scenes. And even though I'm not there, haven't been there for 25 years, I know that this is still going on, and it shows in the repertory and how the dancers are dancing.
Yeah, I think Helgi's true character is steadfast. I think it's always been what it is now. My examples are more personal in things like when you had a problem in your family or someone was ill, or he was so fatherly and understanding and cooperative and helpful and whatever you needed. And probably the supreme example is September 11th. Betsy and I were there in Spain when the towers went down, and there we were, sort of stranded, canceled a performance, but not all of them. We went back, and he, you know, took us all out to a bar or something one evening just to sort of gather together, and he was so strong and brave about it all, and then he made very certain that people he felt needed to get home sooner did, like that, and because we had children, I think. And so it was just things like that. I mean, really, our statements of his character, you know, beyond the directorship, it's the person inside. And I don't think, I think that's only thing I see is he's gotten even more confident in speaking his own mind. I think he was a little quiet at first, but now he's not shy at all. He can speak in front of it, you know, say what he believes and commit to it, and just tell everybody why. And he's unwavering, you know, he's thought it through and he knows what he wants, and that's what it's going to be. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Well, we had so many challenges and so many, I mean, when Helgi had the idea for the New Works Festival, 12 new works, or I don't know what we did last time, was it 16 or that? It was incredible. Huge amount of new works to put together. And, you know, we were all kind of shaking our head and, you know, nope, this is what we're going to do. And we did, and it came together, and we did a whole tour after that of new works to Paris and all over the US, and just seemed like mission impossible, but it happened, and it was so thrilling. And it was like, okay, get on the ride, just there's this jet plane that's taking off, and that was Helgi. You just have to get on board and take it from A to B, and that's the way it was. And we just did it, and it was phenomenal. I don't know, you know, it was spectacular. And just, I think through the years, with so many people to work with and so many new situations, and Helgi's always taken that in stride. And what would seem like the most impossible situation would actually just turn out fine. We'd get things on stage, we'd get new works festivals together, and there you have it. The curtain would go up and it would be amazing.
Thanks, Betsy.
Helgi, do you feel like you've changed as a leader at all over these 37 years, or do you feel like you just have sort of grown in the same direction as you started?
Well, I never lost sight of what I wanted to achieve with the company, and that's still here. Yeah, I think when I came, it was learning as you go, because I had never directed anywhere else, and it wasn't always easy. But so in that way, now I have that experience, and I know what I want and know how to achieve it. But I think inspiring the dancers to do the best they could do under the difficult circumstances sometimes, and like Betsy said, the festival, there were, I think, about 10 works, but might have felt like 16 new works. But I mean, I demanded a lot, but I felt that was really improve the company, improve the dancers' ability to dance and face, and be judged as really top dancers anywhere, which the company is. And I think that's something that I am still pushing.
Well, and that we're almost at time, but that kind of perfectly segues into my last question that I wanted to ask, which is, we're coming to the end of an era. It is a real era in this organization. It's also, I think, I think about this sometimes, that the West Coast can a little bit get left out of, histories of dance in the United States, histories of ballet. And I think after your tenure, Helgi, there's no option for the history books to ignore San Francisco Ballet any longer, right? It is absolutely been established as a major, important company that has made a real difference in how we think about ballet and what ballet is in this country. So, it's going down in history no matter what. But if there were, maybe one or two things that each of you hope people remember about this era of the company, this 37 years under Helgi's direction, what would you hope that would be? What do you want people to think back on Helgi's tenure and say, like, that's what San Francisco Ballet was in that moment?
I have my thought on that is that as forward-looking, forward-reaching, and reaching out in contemporary styles and different choreographers from not strictly ballet background, the really important and strong thing about this company is it is still a classical ballet company. And because we're committed to that completely, from the class in the morning and the standard that is expected in classical dancing. Doesn't mean you can't branch out and you can't do other things and do them very well, but we have not wavered from that very high standard. And I think that's really important, paramount.
Well, I think, Helgi's vision of the company becoming an international company, I think that takes time, and over 37 years, well, it didn't take 37 years for that to happen. It happened a long time ago, but it has maintained and grown since then. And I think that he has brought diversity in his dancers. He's brought diversity in his repertory. And I think that he's on it. The San Francisco Ballet is on the main stage of the ballet world. And I'm just really happy that I could have been a little part of that, because it's really quite an achievement, Helgi.
Thanks, Bonnie.
I think innovation, taking chances, but also acknowledging the classics and keeping the classics alive. I think those are, to me, those are the two maybe important aspects of the company that have been from the very beginning and still today.
Also, Helgi's developed dancers. That not every director is good at that. I have seen that firsthand from day one and learned from that, from him, how to develop dancers. I mean, it's not like they just come in and they're fabulous. It takes a lot of time and hard work and point classes and rehearsals and I learned from Helgi how to do that. I think that's an enormous part of the growth.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Helgi, is there something you want remembered?
Well, I think it's, I think what Anita said, it's being true to the classical idiom, the classical vocabulary, classical technique. I think that's very important because you have to be able to dance the full length well, very well, because so many companies around the world do those full lengths and you're going to be compared and you have to be on that same level. But at the same time, bringing in different choreographers and different styles, technically, classical dancers can do that very, very well. They can adjust to that style very well. It's not the reverse. We cannot have modern dance trained dancers do the classics. So I think that was always an important work for me to a point to make, that this was very important. And you know, I always said to myself, chance nothing, gain nothing. And that has always been back in my mind all those years, to take chances, try different things, experiment, be innovative. And dance can be so many things. I used to call it sort of the rainbow of possibility. You have to see what's possible. You can't just sort of go with what has been done in the past and just stay with that, because then you sort of stand still and you become a museum piece, and that was never interesting to me.
Well, we are at time. We're actually 2 minutes over time. And if we were on the Opera House stage, I would have the crew waving frantically at me and basically putting a hook out to drag me off stage so we could start the show. I get a little more leeway on Zoom, which is lovely, but I am sure that many of you need to get to the theater. And so I am going to hand it over to Jasmine for some final remarks, but thank you so much. This was so fun for me. I hope it was fun for you and for our audience. It was delightful. Thank you.
It was great. Thank you very much.
Very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. As Jennie mentioned, we're short on time. I wish we had more time, but I know that we need to let you go. So thank you so much for spending this time with us before the performance tonight. Thank you, Helgi, for this conversation, but all of your contributions to San Francisco Ballet and to the art form that has reached across the globe. Betsy, Anita, Bonnie, thank you for all that you've given to San Francisco Ballet in your many roles, all the different hats that you have worn, and for sharing those stories today. I'm even more excited about Swan Lake now after hearing some of those memories that come up. Thank you to all of our online viewers for watching and listening to the Points of View lecture. We really appreciate your support, and we look forward to sharing Helgi's farewell season with all of you. Please visit our website to learn more about San Francisco Ballet's 2022 rep season, as well as our Points of View lecture series schedule for the rest of the season, and to learn about any of our other education offerings this year. On behalf of San Francisco Ballet, we wish you and your family good health. Thank you for being with us during this time. Take care. Thank you, Jennie. Thank you, Helgi. Thank you, Betsy.
Bye.
Thank you, Anita. And thank you, Bonnie.
Bye-bye. I will get